Good morning. Welcome to the First Church in Boston. A somewhat different service today. We have our partners from Sanctuary Boston who use the space one Wednesday a month, or maybe half a Wednesday a month. Us and Cambridge are the hosts for location, and sometimes they do it in the great outdoors, even in our amphitheater down there. Put on some other services, different sort of forms of services. Very UU at the same time, but still different forms from typical Sunday morning services. So we wanted to invite them here to put on their type of service for us on a Sunday morning. You don't even have to go on Wednesday. You can come on Sunday morning, and here we are. And the opening words are from A Blessing for Presence by John O'Donohue, who is an Irish-American mystic. Awaken to the mystery of being here and enter the quiet immensity of your own presence. Have joy and peace in the temple of your senses. Receive encouragement when new frontiers beckon. Respond to the call of your gift and the courage to follow its path. Let the flame of anger free you of all falsity. May warmth of heart keep your presence aflame. May anxiety never linger about you. May your outer dignity mirror an inner dignity of soul. Take time to celebrate the quiet miracles that seek no attention. Be consoled in the secret symmetry of your soul. May you experience every day as a sacred gift woven around the heart of wonder. Our service begins with music.
Yeah, welcome everybody. My name is Alex. I'm up here with Tayward, Emma, and Callie. And we are some of the musicians from Sanctuary Boston, and we'll be sharing some songs. Some of them might be ones that you know. This first one is a hymn, but a lot of them, we have all the lyrics in the bulletin today because they're not songs that are in the hymnal. We welcome you to sing along on everything, or whatever feels good for you. If it feels good to sit there and listen, that's great. If it feels good to hum along, to sing, to dance, whatever you'd like to do. The first song we'll be doing is Circle Round for Freedom.
Circle round for freedom, circle round for peace, for all of us in prison, circle for release, circle for the planet, circle for each soul, for the children of our children, keep the circle whole. Circle around for freedom, circle round for peace, for all of us in prison, circle for release, circle for the planet, circle for each soul, for the children of our children, keep the circle whole. Circle round for freedom, circle round for peace, for all of us in prison, circle for release, circle for the planet, circle for each soul, for the children of our children, Circle for release. Circle for the planet. Circle for each soul. For the children of our children. Keep the circle whole. Circle round for freedom. Circle round for peace. For all of us imprisoned. Circle for release. Circle for the planet. Circle for each soul. For the children of our children. Keep the circle whole.
All right. Our next song is Gospel Truth. I invite you to stand if you would like. This is one that could be good for dancing. I'm just going to keep inviting you to do that. This is one that maybe you might not have heard before, but it's a really beautiful song called Gospel Truth. It's kind of one of those songs that it's repetitive but has different words for each section. So one verse is about fear, one's about joy, about love. So it kind of puts those different words into them. So give it a listen and then join in when you feel called. I got to get my instrument.
Everybody got pain, aching in their heart. They got pain, aching in their heart. So don't hold back, cry out loud, share it with a neighbor when you feel low down. The truth shall set you free, set you free, set you free. Glory, hallelujah, you'll be free. Everybody got fear, trouble in their heart. They got fear, trouble in their heart. So don't hold back, whisper in my ear, share it with a neighbor, watch it disappear. The truth shall set you free, set you free, set you free. Glory, hallelujah, you'll be free. Everybody got joy, shining in their heart. They got joy, shining in their heart. So don't hold back, smile real wide, share it with a neighbor, all the light inside. The truth shall set you free, set you free, set you free. Glory, hallelujah, you'll be free.
Callie on trumpet.
Everybody got love, warming up their heart. They got love, warming up their heart. So don't hold back, reach out a hand, share it with a neighbor, help them understand. The truth shall set you free, set you free, set you free. Glory, hallelujah, you'll be free. Everybody got change, jangling in their heart. They got change. Our chalice lighting this morning comes from Audre Lorde. History is not kind to us. We restitch it with living past memory, forward into desire, into the panic, articulation of want without having, or even the promise of getting. And I dream of our coming together encircled, driven not only by a love, but by lust for working tomorrow, the flights of this journey mapless, uncertain, and as necessary as water. I'm Rosemary. It's a joy to be leading worship here today with the Sanctuary Boston. Thank you for having us. Could you please join me in your first church affirmation? It's printed in your bulletin. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another.
In your announcements, in your order of service, there's a social justice action alert, a hearing at the State House tomorrow, March 27th. Show up wearing your GBIO t-shirt to show support for GBIO, that great organization that we're a part of in this church. Spring Garden cleanup, that's also there, and also the first this first session of the workshop on death and dying will happen on Wednesday at 1 p.m., either live or on Zoom. You're welcome to come either way. If you're coming live, we will be in the auditorium. Any other announcements from the floor? No, all right, then I think I can take this mic. For joys and concerns. Anyone have a joy that they want to share with the congregation here? Come on in.
Okay, well, I have a concern for in memory of my brother-in-law, Arthur Stuckey, who died recently of long COVID pneumonia. Apparently, he had it last in December, just after Christmas, which was also around his birthday, unfortunately. And apparently, he never completely recovered, and he died a week ago Saturday. And his wife was with him, and his children got to say goodbye, and say they loved him. And he was asked if he wanted them to keep him alive, and he said no. So they made him comfortable, and he died in his sleep.
That's good. Thank you. Watch yourself on the wires.
I have a joy. The founder of my book club, made up of colleagues from UMass Boston, passed away last December, and yesterday we had a celebration of her life, and I have to say it was such a joyous occasion, even though we all miss her very much.
It's my joy to
Use
let.
microphone.
Oh, I'm sorry, yes. Much better. So it's my joy to let you know that I have just signed up to be part of Wilderness Heals this summer. Wilderness Heals is an all-women pledge hike that raises critical funds for the Stonehouse and survivors of domestic violence in Roxbury. This is a 3-day hike, July 14th through the 16th in the White Mountains, with the goal of raising $200,000. Women in the outdoors are two things that mean a lot to me, as many of you know. I hope you will consider supporting me and survivors of domestic violence. Your contribution in any amount is greatly appreciated. You can see me afterwards. I'll be around, and there'll be more news in the e-news of the church. Also, there's a variety of levels of hikes, so if you'd like to join us, talk to me and I'll tell you more. Thank you.
Good morning. My first is Joy, which is, of course, my husband has retired, so as of Friday, and so yes, congratulations to him, and that's a wonderful thing and a brand new adventure for us. And then the second thing is more of a sorrow. My Uncle Jim was 88. He died on March 22nd, and he walked me down this aisle to get married, and so I will miss him deeply, and but he passed peacefully in his sleep.
Hi everyone, I have a joy. My name is Chris. I came to a service here years ago and haven't been back since then, and I'd like to say, given the first 10-15 minutes of this, I'm glad to be back. It's been great. Thank you all.
Is there anyone else wanting to give us a joy and concern? All right, we'll put this back. And responsive reading.
Good morning. Can you hear? Can you hear? Okay. Good morning. Please turn to responsive reading 637 in your gray hymnal. A litany of atonement. For remaining silent when a single voice would have made a difference, we forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love. For each time that our fears have made us rigid and inaccessible, we forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love. For each time that we have struck out in anger without just cause, we forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love. For each time that our greed has blinded us to the needs of others, we forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love. For the selfishness which sets us apart and alone, we forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love. For falling short of the admonitions of the Spirit, we forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love. For losing sight of our unity, we forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love. For those and for so many acts, both evident and subtle, which have fueled the illusion of separateness, we forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love.
Our centering song today is I Am Light. This refrain, I Am Light, is sung many, many times. And a lot of times I find it's nice to repetitively sing a phrase the more you sing it, the more you maybe believe it and really internalize it.
I am light, I am light. 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 I am not the things my family did. I am not the voices in my head. I am not the pieces of the brokenness inside. I am light. 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 I'm not the mistakes that I have made or any of the things that caused me pain. I am not the pieces of the dream I left behind. I am light. 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 I am not the colors of my eyes. I am not the skin on the outside. I am not my age. I am not my race. My soul inside is all light. All light. I am 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 divinity defined. I am the God on the inside. I am a star, a piece of it all. I am light. I am light.
So, I used to think that history was boring. At least I thought studying it in school was, although I always loved historical fiction, books, movies. I know this might be an unpopular opinion in this room, that history courses tend to be, well, dry. But it's true. In high school, at least, history class was based on one giant tome of a textbook, which presented information in an unquestionable, unengaging format. I lugged my AP US history textbook around, hopelessly, trying to convince myself to read it, and I usually failed to do so. I remember sitting in the library, willing myself to take notes, to make flashcards, to memorize the facts. You might have already caught a hint of what I was missing. A way to engage with history, a way to question, to be in conversation. This semester, I've been reading a lot about the Salem witch trials. In a history course called Witch Hunts, Persecution in Public History and Ethics, we have lively, intriguing conversations about stories. Stories that aren't so much a fixed part of the past, but instead something living, something slippery, something growing around us still. And so in that class, I imagined myself in conversations about the decisions that make up our known history. I mentally placed myself in those impossible situations, knowing that those conversations were had by rooms of real people who I will never quite understand. This does more than present a thought exercise about how people used to live, which I find often end up allowing ourselves to distance ourselves from people of the past. Like, ew, how did people in history stay clean? I could never live like that. So instead, we engage with the thorny ethical questions in their own historical context. And I can think outside of my everyday life. This allows us to imagine who we might be in a moment of real moral quandary, of uncertain truth, of ethical grayness. We can pry ourselves off the paths we walk each day and into a new way of understanding. And so in this spirit, in that class, we started to talk about Salem by reading a book by Emerson Baker, which presented a complicated situation in a complicated way. I imagine most of us in this room know what happened there, what situation I'm talking about, and I also imagine that most of us consider it a tragedy. In 1692, the judicial system in the Massachusetts Bay Colony wrongly executed 19 people, mostly women, and imprisoned more than 100 more under accusation of witchcraft. That same system eventually developed into one we live under now, in the US, in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, in Suffolk County, in the city of Boston. Don't worry, I'm not here to talk about that judicial system, or even if its judges convicted those innocent people out of a sincere belief that they were all practicing witches. I'm also not here to talk about how that conflict came to an end as the court of Oyer and Terminer ground to a halt, or even about the havoc inflicted on the lives of the everyday people of Salem and the surrounding area, or the pervasive sense of fear that you might be next. I'm here to talk about what happened in the years after the wrong was done and unable to be undone. I want to talk a little bit about how we live with it, how we might grapple with atonement and forgiveness and hope for a new way forward after the high tide has receded. Yes, Salem was a tragedy, but it was a tragic year in a time of anxiety, of bitterness, of theological uncertainty, a moment of the hope of a different life unraveling. I don't know if that sounds familiar. Puritans took particularly seriously their covenant with God, their understanding that they were God's chosen people, chosen to be saved, to build a beacon of righteousness in a new world to them. By the generation of the witch trials, this had crumbled a little. Their children were less theologically rigid. War had put tremendous pressure on their economy. Food ran scarce. I'm not trying to absolve anyone of responsibility for their actions or present false heroes in a human-made crisis, but instead to make sure that we see the tragedy as a hurricane of mistakes and the kind of cruelty which comes with fear. And so, in the 4 years after quiet had settled back over the colony, misfortune began to befall the families of those prominently involved with the prosecution and convictions. To these people of faith, this felt like a sign from God, a sign of their wrongdoing. But ultimately, only one person would publicly reckon with this. In the spring of 1696, after 4 members of his immediate family had died, Samuel Sewall, who had been one of the 6 judges in the trials and was a man with significant political power, handed his minister, Reverend Samuel Willard, an apology letter to be read in front of the congregation at South Church, right here in Boston. It came to be known as Sewall's Apology, and it reads in part, Samuel Sewall, sensible of the reiterated strokes of God upon himself and family, and being sensible that as to the guilt contracted upon the opening of the late commission of Oyer and terminer at Salem, ... desires to take the blame and shame of it, asking pardon of men, and especially desiring prayers that God, who has an unlimited authority, would pardon that sin and all his other sins. This was read in front of the congregation. So before this public statement, there had been no admission of responsibility or wrongdoing by any of the involved parties in the witch trials. Sewall, in a moment of humility consistent with the Puritan theology of the time, admitted to the gravity of his mistake and sought absolution, both from God, to whom he ascribed absolute power, but also from his faith community, from whom he asked forgiveness. Notably, his minister was a strong opponent of the trials the whole time. But to our modern eyes, this all feels a little incomplete. Sewall went on to face no consequences in his career, yet many in his life noted that he was never able to really forgive himself. He actually wore a hair shirt, like a shirt made of human hair, a symbol of his shame for the rest of his life. Sewall is not a hero, he's not a villain, not a god. He's a man responsible for so much harm who tried to find a way to live with it. I want a better life for us all. Not punishment, but accountability. Not shame, but forgiveness. Not to point fingers at those in the past and laugh at their foolishness, but to take a moment to place ourselves in their shoes. For me, not a call for pardon from God, but for compassion and grace from our community who see us as divine. When we read stories of historical violence, we have no choice but to lament it because it touches us to this day. At Halloween, crowds gather in Salem to celebrate the joy of magic, to delight in the possibility of transformation. Is this a kind of lamentation too? We read the stories of the violence which is happening now and we grieve. And we must know ourselves to be alive in this moment and hold one another more closely and then reach out. So, when we allow ourselves to really sit in these stories of the past, we make space for moving on in a new way. We make space for stories of reconciliation that are not yet told. We make space for narratives of how the violence almost continued, past our knowledge of how it ended. We make space for wisdom, which kept more tragedies from happening, because they are not inevitable. We make space for those moments of turning points, for our own agency and imagination. We make space for saying, I'm sorry, this is not good enough. We can do better. We can forgive ourselves and each other. We can begin again in love. Baker says later in his book on Salem that Americans today gaze back at the people of 1692 as a foolish, superstitious, and intolerant lot. How could they possibly have executed 19 people as witches? Yet that is to dismiss the figure in the mirror. Imagine for a moment the situation they faced and consider their quandary from their perspective. Wanting to protect what they held most dear, they tore it apart. And so, I wonder if our fascination with the witch trials also endures because of our commitment to try to be on the right side of history. Despite the reality that we only know so much about the moral standards future generations will have for us. Prejudice doesn't so much rear its head as underlie the ground most of our institutions are built on. The death penalty is still legal federally and being used to execute innocent people every year. For me, much of the work of putting myself in the shoes of future generations is about building a world that is a little better, one step at a time. My hope is that this will allow our planet to survive and that our descendants will see us as fallible humans and forgive us the errors we are sure to make. We can forgive ourselves and each other. We can begin again in love, and we are blessed to start today.
Let us now receive the offering for the work of this church.
We have a song before the offering.
Before the offering.
Yeah. We got a little more music. And then we'll do the offering after. All right, this song is I Am Willing. At Sanctuary, we do a lot of music. We do music before everything, after everything. So we're just all the time. So we do a little more music than maybe other typical churches. So we usually like to do a song right after the sermon, or the reflection as we call it. This song is called I Am Willing by Holly Near. And I invite you to stand if you would like to and sing along. There is a chorus that repeats many times, so as you learn it, you can sing along.
those who go before us. So lift me up to the light of change. There is hurting in my family. There is sorrow in my town. There is panic all across the nation. There is wailing the whole world round. But I am open and I am willing, for to be hopeless would seem so strange. It dishonors those who go before us. So lift me up to the light of change. May the children see more clearly, and may the elders be more wise. May the winds of change caress us, even though it burns our eyes. But I am open and I am willing, for to be hopeless would seem so strange. It dishonors those who go before us. So lift me up to the light of change. Give me a mighty oak to hold my confusion. Give me a desert to hold my fears. Give me a sunset to hold my wonder. Give me an ocean to hold my tears. I am open and I am willing, for to be hopeless would seem so strange. It dishonors those who go before us. So lift me up to the light of change. I am open and I am willing, for to be hopeless would seem so strange. It dishonors those who go before us. So lift me up to the light of change. So lift me up to the light of change. So lift me up to the light of change.
Please be seated. So to clarify, the offertory has now been done. Is that great? So are we going to extinguish the challenge? Okay, let's receive the offering. Yeah. Can you play G?
From all that dwell below the skies, let songs of hope and faith arise. Let beauty ever be sung through every land, by every tongue.
We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. flights of our journey will be mapless and uncertain as the tide turns. With compassion and grace for one another, we are blessed to start today. Let's hear some more music.
If you knew me, would you save that seat for me? If you knew me, would you finally let me free?
Let's sing it together.
If you knew me, would you save that seat for me? If you knew me, would you finally let me free? If you loved me, would you hold on to my hand? If you loved me, would you finally understand? If you loved me, would you hold on to my hand? If you loved me, would you finally understand what you need, what you need, I need to, what you are, I am too, 'cause we're all the same under a different name. We're all blood, blood brothers. We're all blood, blood brothers. If you knew me, would you lift me from the ground? If you loved me, would you wrap your arms around? If you knew me, would you lift me from the ground? If you loved me, would you wrap your arms around? What you need, I need to, what you are, I am too, 'cause we're all the same under a different name. We're all blood, blood brothers. We're all blood, blood brothers. What you need, I need to, what you are, I am too, 'cause we're all the same under a different name. We're all blood, blood brothers. We're all blood, blood brothers.
Thank you so much for having us. Thank you. You are very welcome to come to Sanctuary Boston if you would like as well. We meet the first and third Wednesday of each month. The first Wednesday is at First Parish, Cambridge in Harvard Square, and then the third Wednesday is right here, and it's an evening 6:30 service. So it's also online, so you can also tune in from the comfort of your home if you'd like. But thank you so much for having us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm glad. And we will finish with some music as the postlude. Okay, let's do the last two verses, 4 and 5. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Thank you.